Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Umar Aziz bin Fauzan, and I'll be starting off our presentation with an introduction to what is power. Now, to simply put it, power is the ability of one person or party to directly influence another person or party to to do actions that the person in power wants them to do. Now, an example of this is, let's say I want that person to hold the door for me when I'm walking out of the store. So, since I have power over that person, I can directly influence him to do so, to hold the door as I'm exiting the premises. Now, power can be derived from many different sources. It could be derived from popularity, from expertise, or from incentive or money, simply put. Moving on, we go to authority, which is essentially a legitimate way of exercising one's power. So, when a person attains authority, he has the rights to command and to be obeyed by others if he acts well within his own jurisdiction. Now, authority is nothing if the people below do not acknowledge the person's authority. Now, an example is with the prime minister. When he gets elected into office, he has the rights to inherit the authority of said office, and his directives are carried out without question because it is understood well within law that his authority is sound if he carries it out well within his own jurisdiction. So, authority can be attained uh, through three possible venues, which is through traditional means, like your kings kings being inherited their authority from their predecessors. You have a charismatic leader, and you also have legal rationale, which is the same as prime minister. Uh, they attain authority well within law. Finally, we reach legitimacy. Now, it is related to authority, in which in authority, it requires the people, or easy to say, the general population, to acknowledge the authority of the position above. And so it is basically that. This is addressing the acceptance of the general public or the general population regarding the rights of the political institution or authority to rule. Now, it is most prominent in democratic countries where winning the elections shows that the government has earned its right or its legitimacy to rule the country. Now, a real life example is with or the recent Pakatan Harapan winning the 14th general election, which shows their legitimacy to rule over Malaysia.
Okay, as we can see, in democracy government, generally knows that people support is really important. Whether the government have people support or not, that determine the legitimacy of a government. Sokongan rakyat sangat penting dan ditunjukkan melalui pilihan raya. Numbers is everything in democracy government. Dalam kerajaan demokrasi, mereka berusaha, setiap parti berusaha untuk mendapatkan kuasa yang legit melalui sokongan rakyat. Mereka tidak menggunakan kekerasan, tetapi mereka menggunakan pelbagai cara untuk mendapatkan sokongan rakyat. Dan di negara-negara kerajaan demokrasi juga, the government need to be open for criticize. Tengok di sini dua contoh negara demokrasi, yakni Philippines dan juga Indonesia. Di Indonesia perlukan satu numbers yang majoriti. Lebih daripada 50% jumlah pengundi menyokong satu orang untuk jadi presiden, barulah orang itu boleh jadi presiden. Manakala di Philippines, sekiranya berlaku pertemuan 3 penjuru, dan tiada majoriti diraih oleh seorang pun, the biggest percentage vote gain, orang yang mendapat peratusan undi tertinggi akan dilantik menjadi ketua negara tersebut di Filipina lah. So that's all for mechanism of legitimacy in democratic government. Okay, now let us move on to go through the mechanism of legitimacy in authoritarian country. Okay, as we know, that authoritarian government is a bad form of government. That's clear. So, apa yang mereka buat untuk meraih keabsahan, which is semua power, all of the power centralized to a single ruling leader. So there is no terms called separation of power, and a leader become too very powerful. Mereka doktrinkan pemikiran rakyat bahawa mereka ini baik melalui control the media and the education. Kuasa itu diraih secara absah melalui ketakutan rakyat dan kawalan terhadap media. So we can conclude that yes, this power is really efficient because the people will right way support and obey to the government. But bear in mind that it won't last for a long time, because at last the people will sedar that the government have been using them and not tell them the truth. So seperti yang berlaku in the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, where the people did the rebel towards the government because the government has been using them for a long time. So we can see two examples of the authoritarian country, which is China and North Korea. China menunjukkan kemajuan peningkatan ekonomi yang baik semenjak daripada tahun 1970-an ataupun 60-an. Peningkatan ekonomi yang sangat mendadak. Jadi rakyat menyokong mereka dengan sincere. Manakala di Korea Utara, mereka doktrin rakyat mereka dengan mengawal media dan juga education. So that's all for legitimacy mechanism in authoritarian country.
I'll be presenting about political systems and also human rights. The first one, in democracy, people choose leaders by elections. So citizens vote to decide who will lead the states, and this gives people a voice in the government. The next one is freedom of speech, justice, and equality. This means that everyone can speak freely, is treated fairly, and has equal rights. The next one, citizens have the right to fight for fairness. This means that if something is wrong, people can protest or speak up to demand justice. And the last one, misuse of power is equal to loss of public trust. So this means that if leaders abuse power, people lose trust and can vote them out. In authoritarianism, leaders hold all power without any election. This means that the power is controlled by one person or a small group. People don't go to vote or choose their leaders. The next one, no freedom to speak, protest, or even criticize. This means that citizens can't express their opinions or speak against the government without fear of punishment. And the last one, people live in fear and unfair conditions. This means that many live under strict control and face unfair treatment and are afraid to speak up.
Hi, I am Syareenna, and my friend Fasharina will be explain about how weak legitimacy and authority give impact towards human rights. So in this part, we cover about the determination of weak legitimacy and authority, and the impact of weak legitimacy and weak authority towards human rights.
Okay, so what is weak legitimacy? Weak legitimacy means a government has power but people don't truly support or trust it. People may obey because they are afraid or they feel that they have no choice. Like for example, in North Korea, people seem to support the government, but it's likely due to the fear, control, and propaganda rather than genuine approval. This kind of government often claims to be legitimate, but actually limits human rights like freedom of speech and the right to vote.
So what is weak authority? Weak authority occurs when the leaders or the government do not have enough power to control or to lead people effectively. So basically, this problem often appears when other non-government groups like religious militias or armed gangs take over roles that the government is supposed to handle. So for example, in some part of Nigeria, the government struggles to protect the people. As a result, a group called Boko Haram took control in certain area and start creating their own rules. So, this shows that the official government has lost its authority, and when this happens, the people's basic right and safety are not longer guaranteed.
Now, what is the impact of weak legitimacy towards human rights? When a government has weak legitimacy, it means people do not truly trust or support their leaders. They may follow rules out of fear, not believe in the government itself, that they have the right to rules. This lack of trust can lead to state failure. Without real support from the people, efforts like nations building, peacekeeping, or even recovery after conflict are more likely to fail. Other than that, as legitimacy weakens, governments may face many challenges like protests, unrest, or even collapse. For example, in the 1980s, the Soviet Union lost legitimacy. Although the Communist Party stayed in power, many citizens no longer believe that it could meet their political, economic, or even social needs. This can lead to the USSR's collapse in 1991. Sociology Zadid said that legitimacy supports many parts of society. When it is weak, the whole political systems becomes unstable. Other than that, governments can react to weak legitimacy in different ways, such as some try to improve their performance by solving problems or even offering reforms to win back the public trust. Others may turn to force, propaganda, or even controlling the media to maintain the power without public support. Furthermore, some states may shift the definition of legitimacy. Instead of gaining support through good governance, they may rely on nationalism, religion, or tradition to justify their rules. And in some cases, governments do not respond at all, which can lead to further instability or even collapse. Political scientists may say legitimacy is a difficult concept to measure or predict. Even David Easton, a political theorist, describe it as highly problematic because it is hard to see its effect clearly until it's too late. For example, in 1989, the Chinese government faced a major loss of legitimacy after widely suppressing pro-democratic protests in Tiananmen Square. The international community condemned the actions, and many Chinese citizens lost trust in their government.
So, what the impact of weak authority towards human rights? One major effect of weak authority is poor service delivery. Government services such as healthcare, education, and public safety often fail to function properly due to weak management and lack of coordination. So, corruption is a major cause of this issue. Public funds may be stolen by those in power, instead being used to help the citizens. Another reason is that civil servants may lack the skills needed to manage service efficiently. So, for example, in Malawi, public hospitals often face medicine shortages. This is not just because of limited supply, but also due to poor coordination between government agencies who's responsible to ordering and distributing the medication. So, when basic services fail, people lose trust in public institutions. This weakens their confidence in the government and its ability to protect their people's rights. So, what is public reaction? This causes citizens to feel frustrated, especially when they experience corruption, neglect, and failed institutions. Over time, people begin to feel abandoned, especially when they see that the system only benefits for those in power, while ordinary citizens continue to suffer. As this unfair treatment continues, frustration grows. Eventually, individuals and community may express their anger through protest or resistance.
In conclusion, the protection of human rights is deeply influenced by how power, authority, and legitimacy are exercised within a political system. When power is used responsibly, authority is recognized and legitimacy is trusted by the public, governments, and more likely to enforce laws and policies that safeguard human rights. In democratic systems, accountability, rule of law, and citizens participating on create a strong foundation for protecting these rights. However, even democratics can face challenges like corruption or political instability that weaken their effectiveness. On the other hand, authoritarian regimes may offer stability but often lack transparency and accountability, which can lead to suppression of rights. Ultimately, no system is perfect, but strong, legitimate, and accountable leadership is essential to ensure justice, equality, and the consistent protection of human rights.